Today we are going to talk about delay compensation, otherwise known as why is my guitar slightly late. So with any very deeply sampled string instrument, you are probably going to have something like this. You have written all of your notes, your MIDI files right here, exactly on the beat. But then when you go to export or even just listening to playback, you can hear, or in this case even see, that everything is slightly late. You might think, that's weird. Does that mean all the samples are late? Why don't they just cut that off? Now, I wish it was that simple, but let me show you. If I were to zoom in to these waveforms right here, you will see that there's actually a lot of information still in this silence. And so if you were to cut this off, you would actually have a far less realistic guitar library. The noise you see here is essentially your pick traveling towards the string, hitting the string, then pushing the string away from its resting point, let's say, plucking, and then the string traveling back towards the middle and then gradually ringing out. So you can see it's moving here, it's hitting, you basically pull it away, you release, and it gradually builds up. You can see that gradual build up here as well. And so if you were to remove all of this, you start having a far less detailed or realistic guitar performance. So how do we fix this? How do we make it so while we are writing, we don't have to push our guitar forwards or write everything early? Well, there's two ways, and the first way is something I'm not a huge fan of, and that is if you go into Odin 3, into Advanced, you can turn off and force, and this will basically remove that whole pick attack, pre-attack type section. However, your guitars are going to sound less realistic in doing so. This can be a quick and dirty hack, let's say, if you don't want to deal with delay compensation. But in my opinion, there's a much cleaner workflow that you should be getting into, especially if you want to use other stringed instruments as well. Something like a violin is actually going to need way more pre-attack than that. And if you've ever worked on orchestral stuff, you will have noticed, damn, my violins are constantly offbeat. Now later you will also see how to do this in other DAWs, but let me quickly show you how this works in Logic. So if we highlight our track and then click on track right here, you can see the word delay here. And if you double click and then type -20, you will now essentially push the entire project 20 milliseconds late, so that the late instrument that has some type of pre-attack, as you could see before here, is now going to be on beat. I find that -20 is pretty great for Odin. I know other producers like to use -30 or even -40, so this is definitely something you want to experiment with to see what you prefer. This will of course depend heavily on how you usually edit guitars. Maybe you're used to getting it slightly before the grid or slightly after the grid and so forth. I like -20. You can try and see what you prefer. But if I were to bounce it out now, you will see that the guitar is those 20 milliseconds earlier. So you can see right here, the difference between these two notes right here is going to be around 20 milliseconds. And the DAW didn't have to cut off your pre-attack note. So as you can see here, all of this information is still going to be happening before the beat right here, as it should. Now next I'm going to show you some footage that our amazing Solemn Tones Discord has provided from the various DAWs they have been using, so you can see how to use delay compensation in your particular DAW. So big shout out to these amazing producers and musicians. If you wish to join a community of like-minded individuals who love using MIDI instruments to make some awesome music, of course you can join at the link in the description, and happy producing.